they can say what they want to. I like Tulane. Tulane is bringing a lot back. They've stepped into the little national spotlight last year. They had good quarterback play. The interesting thing is going to be is how they're going to replace the quarterback.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today on this college football preview show of both the American Athletic Conference and the Sun Belt Conference, Captain for Life, Will Cotton, and former high school football player. Will, how you doing today?
Feeling good. I'm glad I don't got to be out there playing football right now. It's too hot. Wearing pads and helmets. I'll pass, but I'm happy where I'm at now under the AC.
All right, and our Sun Belt Football Conference expert, George Ockert. George, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Blessed to be here. Blessed to be here.
Our favorite administrator and Texas correspondent, Robert Abney. Robert, what's going on today, sir?
Man, I living the dream over here in Central Texas as always. We're fully preheated. It's warm, and everybody is starting to feel the football coming. So let's get into it.
All right. So on today's 2024 college football preview show, we will preview both the American Athletic Conference and the Sun Belt Conference. The OCP's college football preview shows are designed for the casual fan to get you excited for the season. And yes, we will talk about things strictly for entertainment purposes only. In segment 1, we will cover the AAC. In segment 2, we will cover the Sun Belt. And in segment 3, we predict bowl-eligible teams, conference winners, and the potential college football playoff participants. But first, the American Athletic Conference. We got Army. Their over-under is 6.5. Army joins a conference after years and years of being an independent. Their goal is pretty much to make a bowl game. And unless otherwise noted, we'll keep it moving. Charlotte, regular season win total. Over-under 3.5. Biff Poggi will have field goals. He recruits the DMV pretty hard. Portal-heavy team. George, I am sure Biff has come through your time as an AD a time or two across your desk. Any thoughts on Charlotte?
Well, I'll keep my feelings on Biff and how he tried to steal a couple players, but we're going to leave that alone because he at this time. They do have a number of kids coming down there. Biff is a real good recruiter.
So I've heard, George. So I've heard.
Yeah. So he will have some talent down there. I know they got a couple of kids that have transferred in there, and a lot of kids from the Baltimore, Maryland area will say that are down there. So they're going to be tough again in the conference in Sun Belt. They were in the bowl last year. I expect them to make a bowl again this year, so they'll be on the come up in that conference.
All right, so East Carolina's trying to do some stuff, and I happened to be down there last year. They're over under 6.5. Mike Houston's bunch kind of bottomed out at the end of last season. Will, I want to ask you something about East Carolina. They're trying to come up. The ACC is having some issues with some teams maybe leaving, not leaving. What do you think about a team like East Carolina putting in resources for football? What are your thoughts on that?
Man, it's going to be a hard season for them. I mean, I think they won like 2 games last year or 2 or 3, something like that. And I think the biggest thing I remember from at least reading a lot of stuff, they can't score. And you can't score nothing. I mean, I think they're averaging like 2 touchdowns or something silly like that. So to say that they have a 6.5 over under, I mean, that's ambitious. I would have to take the under, but it's good to say that they're probably not going to win just 2. They'll probably win 4, and they'll be a tough out, not one of those easy, cupcakes joints, but it's going to be a rough season in 2024 for them. Trust me.
Okay, go ahead.
But they stepped their schedule up, but the talent pool they have there, didn't step up with them.
Wow.
And so one of the problems they have, they play a big boy schedule and they play a lot of heavy hitters, but they don't have the arms to be in that arm race that they're in. So unless they get better quarterback play this year, quarterback was hard on them last year. They're usually really good. They usually get some good DBs. They might have some good receivers down there, but like last year, they were suffering quarterback wise. So we'll see what happens.
They
With
couldn't
them this
score.
year.
It was just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't be having them on my Saturday list very often, but we're going to move to Florida Atlantic. They're over under 6.5. FAU kind of sputtered in Tom Herman's first season, but they're expected to get a bowl game. Robert, that name Tom Herman should be familiar to you and those in Texas. Any thoughts on FAU?
Yeah, it does kind of didn't he used to coach like a SEC team, maybe Texas? I don't know. I think they already forgot about him. It's always interesting to see when teams have success in the NCAA tournament, because there's a lot of studies that show that those schools, they start getting more enrollment. When you get more enrollment, you have more money to spend. It's always interesting to see if that success transfers to the football field. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now that Tom Herman's got a year under his belt. The other thing I think is interesting about this about the American is, we've got a lot of over-unders right around 6, right? So a lot of teams scrapping for that bowl eligibility here.
That's what it seems to be. But one team not scraping for it, who should be on the national radar this year, Memphis. Memphis overs under is 9.5. They are the favorite, and they are expected to flirt with 10 wins. I got to tell you, fans, I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to Memphis, strictly for entertainment purposes only. So we'll talk about them in segment 3. Go ahead, Will.
If they mess around and go 12-1, are we really talking them getting in the playoffs? There's 12, in 12 team now?
So I'm sure Memphis will be in our segment 3 conversation. All right, George, go ahead, George.
I was about to say, it's going to be, that conference is going to come down to Memphis and probably Tulane. South Florida might have something to do with it, but Memphis has a lot. Memphis has gone a different route. They got a lot of dudes that were originally signed somewhere else, had a couple difficulties, and they made use of the transfer portal. They have been in the past couple of years where they've done that. But they have a running back, and they had a quarterback actually drafted the past couple of years. So, they've been a tough team here last couple of years anyway. So I can see the fight between them, and they can say what they want to. I like Tulane. Tulane is bringing a lot back. They've stepped into the little national spotlight last year. They had good quarterback play. The interesting thing is going to be is how they're going to replace the quarterback. That's going to be the big thing with them.
We'll get to Tulane shortly. We're on Navy. Their over-under is 5.5, and a lot of growing pains with Brian Newberry changing from the Coach Ken system. They're trying to get to a bowl game, and that will be the best they could do in Annapolis. Robert, North, go ahead.
I was going to say Navy and Army. They're over under pretty close. Imagine if you get to the Army Navy game that first weekend in December, and both schools are on 5 wins. Winner is bowl eligible.
Winner goes to the bowl game, right?
Yes, but that Army Navy game is still separate and not a part of AAC standing, so it will strictly be for bowl eligibility if they get to that point. Yep. So that will be interesting.
Air Force will win the President's Cup this year, so they don't have to worry about it.
All right. So Robert, North Texas, 5.5 over under 5.5. Chandler Morris transfers in from TCU. He had an injury plagued time there. Any additional thoughts about North Texas?
Yeah, the Mean Green, they were disappointing last year, so they're hoping to rebound a little bit. I don't know enough about Chandler Morris to really have an opinion on him, but I'm sure that I know they need better quarterback play. So if he's able to give that, that's gonna give him a boost.
All right, we're going to stay with Robert and Rice, the Ivy of the South, over under 6.5, and they got to replace JT Daniels and Luke McCaffrey. What do you think about Rice, Robert?
Uh, that over under seems awfully optimistic for a team that has to replace two guys like that. So I'm a reserve judgment on that. I think I'd go under.
Oh, fans, I'm taking notes again, strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Hey, Keith,
Yes.
Rice is waiting for baseball season.
All right, George, South Florida, over under 7.5. South Florida, quite frankly, should be better than what it is. They are in a recruiting hotbed. They're playing in the American. UCF has left and gone to the Big 12. So they have an opportunity in front of them. George, any thoughts about South Florida?
They have not recovered since they lost their coach. They had talent. Actually, they were on the come up there for a minute, and then the wheels kind of fell off when the coach left, and I think he went to Georgia Tech or something. I forgot exactly where. So they have not gotten their base and everything back together. So we're gonna see they're in another year where they're trying to get the ship righted again on all of that momentum they had that one thing, it was like a 5-year period where they were on the come up and they were talking about being another one of the top programs in Florida, and it just hasn't worked out well. They let UCF jump over top of them and keep going. So I thought it was going to become the next, the next
Florida team.
Yep,
right?
the next Florida team, right
Yeah.
there with Florida State and in Miami. We thought it was going to be like that for a second because they were in the bowl game every year and competing with the big boys, but things haven't gotten good down there. So this is going to be a telltale year this year. It might be one of them times where they were going to scrap everything and start over. So we'll see.
All right.
I don't know. I don't know. In 2022, they went 1-11, and then last year they finished 7-6. So there's a lot of buildup, and there's a lot of what's it called? I forgot the word I'm thinking of, but they're all playing very well.
Optimism,
and they're also getting a good carryover of. They're not losing a lot of important players. Like you said, it'll be interesting. I don't know if it's good enough to get past that 7-6 barrier. But I mean, if you're a team looking at where you were at 1-11, you see 7-6, I wouldn't be surprised if they got 2 more notches in those wins and got like to 9-4, at best.
Well, the big thing was they started getting recruits in. And you can see that 1-11, the coach left, and then things kind of just fell off the shelf. Now it's like it becomes a who's who kind of who's coming to South Florida. So, like I said,
Right.
we'll see what happens. And see if they get those 2 more notches. But it's not something I've been hearing on the wire like, oh yeah, South Florida will be good this year. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, speaking of not going to be good, Temple's not going to be good. Their over-under is 2.5, and good luck to them in Philly. Tulane, 7.5. They replaced Willie Fritz with one of the best Group of 5 coaches, and John Sumrall from Troy, who helped me out. And they don't think there's going to be much of a drop-off with Tulane. So Tulane is one we have to follow.
Troy, I will say this. Troy has been good the past couple of years in the conference, and then they've been competitive outside the conference. They wound up giving LSU a game a couple of years ago, and getting Willie Fitz over there is just going to continue the whole situation they got going on. So they got a good program. They got a good program. Great academic. Hard to get people in, but it's a good program.
All right. Tulsa, 4.5 over under. The Golden Hurricanes will look to bounce back from a down year. They don't have to play Memphis or Tulane, so goody for them. UAB has Trent Dilfer. They're 6.5 over under. Trent Dilfer talked a lot last year.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see how they're going to do. But we're going to
He
close
should
up.
have. He should have stuck to game day.
And right on cue, we're going to close with UTSA. Over under is 8.5. Robert, despite losing Frank Harris, the Road Runners have been road running the last couple of years. If you've paid attention to the show, finish off the American Conference, sir. Any thoughts on UTSA?
I mean, they're still going to be pretty good. Frank Harris was a very, very good college quarterback, and he carried them the past few years. Be interesting to see who winds up playing quarterback for them, but they're very good. They're gonna be right there with Memphis.
All right. So when we get back, folks, we're going to talk about the Sun Belt Conference and hide everybody in Boone, North Carolina. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast. It's segment 2. It's all about the Sun Belt Conference, and we're going to start off with App State. George, the over-under is 6.5. They're the favorite to win the Sun Belt. They've got a tricky non-conference schedule. They got a road trip to Clemson, and they play Liberty. That is a early, star game. What are you thinking about App State?
I expect it's going to be a tough little season because looking at that schedule and who they have to play, it's going to be tough. That Liberty game is probably going to be a good game. It all depends on how many transfers they get in up at App. App always had some talent up there. And if you got to play them at Boone, Boone's a place where dreams go to die. So you gotta you ask Michigan. They know all about it. So they're going to be tough in the conference. And I look for App to probably come in second in that conference this year.
All right, Arkansas State over under 6.5. Butch Jones's group is expected to take that next leap. They do have out-of-conference games against Michigan and Iowa State, so good luck with that. Coastal Carolina, one of my favorite schools. Shout out to Coach Nima, show contributor. Over-under is 6.5. They won't have Grayson McCall there, but the team is still projected to make a bowl game, so good luck to Coastal. Georgia Southern. Robert, I'm going to go to you. Their over-under is 5.5, but Clay Helton, long-time coach, found a nice spot there. He's had some success at other places. Do you think Georgia Southern will make it back to a bowl game?
Well, I think not only for Georgia Southern, but a lot of these other schools, it really depends on who they play in their money games and who gets hurt in their money games. Because if you can get through your two or three money games, however you decide to play, and you keep everybody healthy, then that's going to bode well for you. You wind up losing somebody important, a good offensive lineman, a good linebacker, nice wide receiver. That'll put a little crimp on your season. So I We'll see. We'll see what happens with them. I don't know.
All right. Will, Georgia State is supposed to be pretty much on a rebuild. They're over under 4.5. My question to you is you've been to Atlanta on a number of occasions. How come Georgia State can't get over the hump, man?
Too much fun. Too much fun. Nobody's focused. I went there and I wasn't even 21 and I was getting in clubs and all kinds of stuff. So I can imagine if they're making money, if they're known somebody and your auntie, your uncle, a cousin, and you're right down the street, it can be a little difficult, man, especially if you have guys who have a lot of, very close ties to the area. We'll see what happens. It's maturity, you know what I'm saying? You have to find guys that want to come in and want to play ball and not here to, be at the parties and not to be with the Morehouse and the Spelman girls and all that Clark and stuff. They're right there too, and it's a hotbed. I get it. It's a college town. It's Georgia Tech over there. It's Clark, Morehouse. There's a lot going on. They just kind of have to focus on playing football, and if they do, they should play a little better. But it's a tough place to place to play.
And that's the analysis you get on the OCP because it's all true. He didn't tell you one lie, fans. All right, George, James Madison. They are on the come up. Football, basketball. It seems like every sport down in Harrisburg is doing something. Their over-under is 8.5, but they lost their coach, but they still got lofty win totals. Can they still do it, George? What do you think?
I'm gonna give this public service announcement to everybody paying attention to us. If you want to put money anywhere, just ride with JMU. They're going to run roughshod through this conference. The coach they got coming in is business as usual. He's not changing much. They have recruits coming in. JMU is a big fish playing in a little pond, and they will continue.
But is it because now they've had this would be like 2 or 3 years they've had success? Do you think now people are like, hey, now we're gunning for you, and it's going to be harder just because now the target is so much bigger?
No, because let me tell you, this ain't been 2 or 3 years. This has been about 5, 6, 7. Because JMU, what people don't understand, they won the 1AA title. They were constantly in the top 5 in 1AA, where they beat North Dakota State one year. The number of players that they've sent to the league is staggering for what you would call a smaller school. They have a real program. They put money in down there. It's like going down there to like a legit D1 program. They'll beat UVA. That's where they are. They have in the past. So UVA won't schedule them. So it's one. Yeah. So JMU is no joke. It's like one of those hidden maulers down there that nobody really wants to see. And now that they've come D1, you'll see the reason they weren't in the bowl game last year is because they were that stupid NCAA rule of once you go Division I, you're not allowed to, you can't be the conference champion and all this. So they're going to be there this year and continue to be there. I don't see them being in the conference that long because ACC or somebody's going to come call them real quick because they're that strong. So, and they've spent that much money on the athletic program. So, you might as well. They're going to win this one. They'll be in the bowl game and they'll win this one. They got them at 9. I'd take the over. But go ahead.
Georgia, take the over. Go Dukes. Let's go, baby.
All right. So Louisiana, 7.5 over under. They'll be back in the mix. They got a bunch of veterans there.
Always.
But it seems like they're going to feast on each other. So we'll go right on to Marshall. Marshall, 6.5 over under. They're right in the middle of that shuffle. Like Robert likes to say, there's a lot of teams just hanging around. But one team that won't be hanging around is Old Dominion. As good as James Madison has been, Old Dominion has been just as bad. Over-under is 4.5. The Monarchs overachieved last year. I just left their campus. Nice group of people, but their facilities are terrible.
Yeah.
And the way they did business just was not impressive. Let's just say to a impressionable 15-year-old wide receiver. And if you're not impressionable to a 15-year-old wide receiver at a pretty decent school, my guess is you're not impressionable to a lot of folks who you might recruit. Go ahead, George.
Keith, I'm about to jump in and just tell me if I'm right, because it was depressing to me to see them go. They made the leap up, but didn't put the money in and the facilities and stuff they needed to in order to make that leap up.
Well, George, let's just say that impressionable 15-year-old really enjoyed his time at James Madison. And that impressionable 15-year-old said, "Time to go, Dad. Let's go home. And we will go to you." Now, Robert, I don't know how you'll take that, but the impressionable intern of the Hot Coaches podcast really enjoyed James Madison and was less than impressed with Old Dominion.
Didn't have the Riz, right? That's what the kid says. He didn't have Riz.
Man, I won't even go there because I'll say the wrong thing and
I'm
I'll
learning
be
this
on the
stuff.
news.
Now, I'm young enough. I can still learn that stuff.
I work in a middle school. I'm not even going to try. All right, South Alabama. Again, another 6-5 over under. The Jags had a good run in the Sun Belt. They've got some coaching turnover. Robert, do you think they can make a bowl game this year, South Alabama?
That over under 6.5, man. I mean, maybe, sure, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I tell you who's not going to make a bowl game. Southern Mississippi, and I'm so sorry at Hattiesburg. Over and under 4.5. They only won 3 games last year, and I don't think it's going to get better. I'm going to go back to Robert. Texas State. This is where we're going to pause, fans. Take out your little notepads for those doing things strictly for entertainment purposes only. Over under is 8.5. They're one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the Sun Belt. The team landed James Madison transfer Jordan McLeod. He had a strong season last year. Robert, what is the talk in Texas about Texas State?
So there's a lot of buzz about Texas State. There's a lot of buzz there. Couple of interesting games early. They play UTSA because they play them every year. They play UTSA in San Marcos. And then the following week, they host Arizona State. Arizona State better be focused.
Which they can win. Yeah.
You know, because it's gonna be 100 and some odd degrees, which won't bother Arizona State, except it is not a dry heat. Well, it will get you. So let's see what happens. The other thing is Texas State does not play JMU in the regular season, so that helps them as well. I'd expect to see Texas State and JMU. There's a Sun Belt championship game, right?
Everybody, you got to make this. I got to find $20 million, Robert.
That's who I would expect to see there.
Okay. All right, George, Troy, over and under 6.5. They're the back-to-back champions. They got a new coach coming in from Notre Dame, but they're probably going to have a drop in expectations. Any thoughts on Troy?
They were back-to-back champions because they wouldn't let JMU be the champion. So let's get that straight now. Troy's going to be, they're right with Robert's 6-5, 7-win team total. I don't know. And the thing about it is Troy is, if Troy still schedules, because I haven't looked at their schedule, but if they schedule, they always put like 3 heavy hitters on there. So they're going to wind up playing LSU and then a Clemson and then something else. And they got to lick their wounds and go back into conference play. So it's going to be tough for them. It'll be tough for them because if they put 2 heavy hitters on there, then they're going to have to play JMU or they're going to have to play Texas State. So you can add them as another heavy hitter. It sucks when you're in a smaller conference and you got heavy hitters in your smaller conference. So it don't work out well for them. So we'll see. I guess they can get there and make a bowl. We'll see.
All right. Will, I'm going to close with you because we do things strictly for entertainment purposes only. Louisiana Monroe's win projection is 1.5 over under. They have the lowest win total percentage in the entire country. Shall we put a 5 or a 10 spot on Louisiana Monroe to see if they can win 2 games? Because these are the things that get me excited.
I want to say you can win 2 games. I mean, you won 6 and 7 2 years ago. They won 6 and 7 last year. To someone to say you were only going to win maybe 2, that's kind of very strong. I say they really don't know who the quarterback's going to be. There's really a lot of excitement, unless you're wearing purple and yellow in that area. So I would have to say I think they one win. I'm taking the under. One win. I mean, if you're looking at the other teams, I'm looking at the other teams. I mean, if there's 6.5 plus 7.5, 4.5, and this is 1.5, and I'm trying to find, I guess, like Southern Mississippi is going to be their Super Bowl, and there has to be another team in here that's going to come and creep up and do something. I don't see it. And maybe unless they play like Springbrook or something, I don't see it. I don't see it.
When we get back in segment 3, we'll talk about the postseason. We'll talk about who may be bowl eligible and who's going to flirt with the CFP. We'll be right back on the iCoaches podcast.
The CKA SAVE Project is an industry leader in advocating for student-athlete, academic, and athletic needs. Through academic and athletic enrichment, the CKA SAVE Project is on the forefront of the issues facing 21st century student-athletes. As student-athletes continue to struggle to find a better balance between academic and athletic success, the CKA SAVE Project offers academic and athletic services to support student-athlete academic success, including academic skills assessment, academic and athletic consulting, academic monitoring, academic and athletic workshops. For more information or to schedule a free consultation, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the iCoaches podcast. In segment 3, we're going to start with the American Bowl eligible teams. So this is where I lose Robert and the great franchise himself. So Robert, the American is guaranteed 7 bowl appearances. Okay, and they're affiliated with the Fenway Bowl, where they'll play an ACC school, the Military Bowl, where they'll play an ACC school, and the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, as well as the Hawaii Bowl. The American Conference will get a chance to put 4 teams in the following bowls, depending on matchups and availability: the Birmingham Bowl, the Boca Raton Bowl, the Cure Bowl, the Frisco Bowl, the all-time favorite of yours, the New Mexico Bowl, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl, and the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it. So here are the projected bowl teams: Army, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Memphis, Rice, USF, Tulane, UAB, and UTSA. Robert, any thoughts on projected bowls for the American Athletic Conference?
So that's 9 teams that the odds makers are saying are going to be 6-ish for 7 bowl berths. So if you win 6 and you don't automatically get one of those 7, you're eligible to fill another spot. So there's always that. The other thing is you brought up the New Mexico Bowl. The New Mexico Bowl had opened the bowl season for like the past probably 10 years or so. It was the first bowl game, and that changed this past year. And it was still the first day, but now they moved it. It's after Christmas.
Wow.
So I don't know what that's going to look like. The past 5 years in New Mexico, there has been an after Christmas storm that has made it's made the weather miserable. So let's hope they don't get caught up in that. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on bowl season for the American.
All right, George, I'm taking you to the Sun Belt. The top-ranked Sun Belt champion will be in the mix for the Fiesta, Cotton, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl if it's the highest Group of 5 champ, if it's not in the college football playoff. The Sun Belt will get 5 bowl slots available to eligible teams. ESPN owned and operated bowls get first pick Sun Belt teams, and they get the third and fourth pick of Sun Belt teams. The New Orleans Bowl gets the second pick. The Lending Tree Bowl gets the fifth pick. The Sun Belt will get spots in at least 3 of these bowls: the Camilla Bowl, the Cure Bowl, the Frisco Bowl, the RoofClaim.com, Boca Raton Bowl, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, and it has affiliations, if needed, as Robert said, for the famous Idaho Potato Bowl or the New Mexico Bowl. Projected bowl teams from the Sun Belt: App State, Arkansas State, Coastal, James Madison, Louisiana, Marshall, South Alabama, Texas State, and Troy. George, what are you thinking about the Sun Belt Conference postseason bowl team?
Well, first and foremost, I think we got enough bowl games that half the teams in NCAA Division I can go to.
Somewhere franchise is cussing right now.
Yeah. But it's going to be interesting because I do believe that the winner of Sun Belt will be in the what are we at 12 now? The group of the group of 12 could make the playoffs, because I could see JMU or Texas State being that good at that point in time in the rankings. Robert's getting ready to say something.
Well, here's a question. Does a one-loss team from the American or the Sun Belt get into that playoff?
Crack their ball, yeah.
So, Robert, on that line, I've got Memphis as a conference winner, and they're going to be a 10 or an 11 win team. Where if Texas State or JMU wins the Sun Belt, they'll have 2 to 3 losses. So, looking at how they do business, I've got Memphis projected to be that Group of 5 team in that mix, because they're going to be 23, 22, 21, 20. They might even get up to 15 in the rankings. So, George, any thoughts about that?
What you got? My thing is going to be, I have to see. I don't know how you have Memphis as a one-loss team.
They're projected to win
10.5 games. Okay.
So they're going to be 11. And if you look at Memphis' schedule,
right,
will strictly for entertainment purposes only, do you see many losses on Memphis' schedule?
I do not.
Okay.
Strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, I figured.
I see one game you're going to go in against Florida State. I mean, that's going to be a tough game. I mean,
and if they get that win against Florida State, they're going to use that all year.
Don't worry.
The ACC.
Really nothing. There's nothing.
Don't worry.
Other than Florida State, they're playing St. Agnes for the blind and one-legged.
That's basically it. So the schedule comes into play, because see, I could see I could really see JMU. I could see JMU in that top, and if they do anywhere close that they did last year, where they came in with 1 loss and they lost, I think it was, I forgot who they lost to. It was by a point. They wind up being there. So if you take one of them being in that 12. And then Texas State ESPN will pick up the other one, whether it's JMU or Texas State. They'll fill their quota after that. After that, it'll be a coin toss on who goes where.
So a one loss team from either of these conferences could make the playoff.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm closing off. Go ahead, George.
I'll say this: a one-loss JMU is scary to the CFP. I'm just putting it out there right now. Even an undefeated JMU is going to be scary going into the CFP. So they're not a first round walkover. Let's just put it like that. Somebody's going to be in trouble. Somebody does not want to see them. So,
all right. So as we wrap up, we're looking at following Memphis all season on the OCP, and we're looking at following JMU and Texas State all season on the OCP. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and/or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.